Hi guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to read my Loomigurumi patterns. Sorry if you hear any weird noises. I'm using my earbud microphone for this, so it kind of falls out of my ear sometimes. So I thought that would be better for recording sound. So I have my pattern here. I printed it out, which is why the emojis look weird. I'm going to use my hook to point to what I'm reading. So the band count is how many rubber bands you're going to use. In this pattern, it's about 106. So you need about 106 bands to do this Loomigurumi. And by the way, this is my Loomigurumi sushi. So the pattern, this is how to make whatever Loomigurumi it is. So a magic ring is what you start a Loomigurumi pattern with. I have a video on how to do that. So it says magic ring 6 stitches. When it says 6 stitches, that means you put 6 stitches in the cap band. So just go check out my tutorial if you don't know how to do that. So it's just a cap band, and then this pattern calls for 6 stitches in the cap band. In my tutorial, I think I do 5 stitches in the cap band, but if you have more or less stitches that you have to put in your cap band, some of the Loomigurumi patterns use 4 stitches in the cap band, and some of them use 6, like this one. So you would just go into your cap band and pull through 6 bands instead of 5 like I do in my tutorial. So all these things that say R2, R3, R4, those are row 2. Row 1 I count as the magic ring, which is why there's no row 1. The magic ring is the first row. So R2 stands for row 2. And then it says what you do in that row. This one says INC, SC. So what INC means, it means increase. So that's when you do an increase. An increase is 2 stitches in the next stitch. So you put 2 stitches in whatever stitch is next. When you start your row and you need to do an increase, instead of going to the next stitch, you go into the same stitch that you just did, and then do another stitch. And then the next stitch would be a single crochet, which is 1 stitch. So SC stands for single crochet, which is 1 stitch in the next stitch. And then in the parentheses here, this number is how many bands you should have, how many stitches you should have around your magic ring. So you would count the one on your hook, and then you count the next one, and then you should have 9 in this pattern. Sometimes it's more or less depending on which pattern you're using. R3, that's row 3, so the next row would be completely increasing since it says INC, that stands for increase. And then after you finish increasing, you should have 18 stitches because 9 times 2 is 18. So when you do an increase all the way around, you just multiply the number of stitches in the last row by 2. So that would be 18. And then R4 is row 4. So you do single crochet all the way around. So in the parentheses it says 18 because single crochet just keeps the same amount of stitches. And then when this says switch colors on the band with clip, the band that you have your C-clip on would be where you would switch colors. To switch colors, you pull a band, instead of pulling it through just the first 2 bands on your hook, like you usually do when making a normal stitch, you would pull it through all the bands. And then do the stitch like normal, like pulling the bottom band over the top band. And then this row 5 is a single crochet again. This one would be in the second color if you're doing the sushi. And then still 18. So R6 is row 6. DEC stands for decrease. So that's when you would pick up the bottom band or the one closer to the inside of your Loomigurumi, and then the next stitch you would pick up the outside one or the one pointing like that way instead of that way. And then this is 2 SC, so you would do a decrease, then 2 single crochets. So in that row you would have done 5 decreases, which would bring it to 13 stitches around your Loomigurumi. Sorry, I have to adjust my earbud. It's falling out. So yeah, you would, each time you do a decrease, you take away one stitch from the total of the last row. So 13 plus 5 is 18. 18 minus 13 is 5. So you would have 13. Row 7 would be 3 single crochets. So you would do 1, 2, 3 single crochets. And then you would do a decrease. Then you would do 3 single crochets again. And then a decrease. Then 3 single crochets. And then you would end up doing 2 decreases in that row. So you'd have 11. And then this, the stuff, it means you would put your stuffing in your Loomigurumi. Not all patterns say when to stuff it, but usually before you start doing like decrease single crochet, so it's usually before you start decreasing is when you would stuff it, when you have a big enough hole but you're about to make it close. So you would have 11 stitches, which would be a pretty big hole to stuff the sushi with. So that's when you would stuff it. Row 8 would be a decrease and then a single crochet. So how I do it, when it starts with a decrease on the first stitch, if it's a decrease, I would, instead of doing a single stitch on the band with a clip, like you would normally do at the end of a row, instead you would take off the clip, then do a decrease on the next 2 stitches, and then you would put the clip on the band that you pulled through those 2 loops. And then you would do a single crochet. So you would have 7 loops at the end of that row. Sorry, my earbud is falling out. Okay, I'm just going to take it out. There we go. That's better. I gotta find somewhere to put it. There we go. Okay. And then the next row would be row 9. You would do 4 decreases. Sorry, I didn't put the E in that. But DC could also stand for decrease, but it's usually DEC. So it says 4 decreases. Not everybody does how many decreases you would do. Usually it's just decrease around until closed is what people normally do. But I prefer doing it 4 decreases. So you do 3 normal decreases, and the last one, you, instead of pulling it through just the first 2 loops, you would pull it through all 3 loops that are on your hook. And then you would pull the bottom band over the top one, and then you would pull it tight, and then hide the tail. You would stick your hook into somewhere, like the tail, and this is like somewhere over here, but you would just stick it like that, and then come out like where the tail would be. Like, let's just say the tail would be there. You would grab the tail. Let me focus. You would hook the tail and then carefully pull it through, and then you pull it through here and try not to grab anything like I just did. Then you would pull it like that, and then you would sometimes have to go through it and then keep hiding it until it's hidden. And then you would do, in this, it says put 2 to 3 black bands around the sushi. So you would just put it around this. This is not in most patterns, but just saying that. And then, sorry about that. Something fell. I don't know what it was. And then, usually, that's the end of the pattern. So once it says decrease till closed, is usually what I do in the pattern. So that's how you read my patterns. By the way, did anybody like this background, this rainbow? It's a piece of paper, which is why it's sliding around, but I thought it looked pretty. I might have this in future tutorials. Remember, I am on Instagram at loomlovebykara, and make sure to subscribe and like this video. Remember that I'm doing a giveaway at 100 followers on Instagram, so if you could go follow me on there, that would be great. I have a first, second, and third place winner that I will pick. It's like a contest. First place would get a bracelet, a charm, and a Loomigurumi. Second place would get a Loomigurumi and a bracelet. And then third place would get a charm and a bracelet. So, hopefully I can get 100 followers soon. I will post the winners on my Instagram and on my YouTube. And if you know me personally, like from church or something, remember that I am going to a farmer's market. If you are interested in going there, just email me. But I can only tell you if I know you in person and you know me in person. So, yeah, if you're not sure of the date and time, I can email that to you if you email me and make sure I know who you are. So, that's the end of today's video. Sorry if I haven't been posting a bunch of videos lately because I'm preparing for the farmer's market because this Saturday, I have a whole jar of Loomigurumi things that I'm going to sell. Little sushi. And I just made this blobfish. It was adorable. Kind of don't want to sell him because he's super cute. Look at how cute he is. I'm running out of eyes, so that's why I used bands for the eyes. This is by Ginger Cell, by the way. I also made a purple cow. So if you're interested in these and you know me in person, I'm selling them at my farmer's market. Sorry about that. Also made a heart. Really cute. I'll also be selling one of these rainbows. It's not exactly like this. It's made with the Sparkle Pop Treasure Box. I think that's what it's called. But it's made with like these bands, sparkly bands. So yeah, that's the end of my video. No, I keep saying that. Ignore the dirt under my nails. I was playing outside yesterday. I'll see you on the next video. Make sure to subscribe and like this video and follow me on Instagram. Bye.